We have a little technical problem here. All right, I will present to you the research study that I carried out with Rodika Ailinkai, who is here. Our research work is on foreign language learning, not on local, regional, vernacular languages as other people presented. Here is the outline of my presentation. The aim of this presentation is to give you an overview of the research activities that we carried out in French Polynesian context in primary school and in foreign language learning and teaching. We will also talk about our future projects, future research. Well, our research work can be studied under two headings: content and language integrated learning, which our studies were actually based on exploratory study, experimental exploratory studies, which we experimented with content and language integrated learning. And the second one is classroom interaction analysis, a sort of, well, again, exploratory, but discovery-based studies, which we actually worked on classroom-based corpus without any hypothesis or prior questions. We just analyzed the corpus that we obtained from French Polynesian classrooms. I think I'm in front of the view of people, sorry for that. So content and language integrated learning is a fairly new approach in language teaching, or it's an educational approach actually. Is used for teaching either a regional language or a second official language or a foreign language. So it has a dual focus, both developing language skills and building interdisciplinary content knowledge in learners. So the aim here is not to teach the language, but also use the language to teach other school subjects. As the title indicates, our research forms a bridge between content and language integrated research and teacher development. For clear research, we used a type of action research approach, but we use formal research analysis methods. And the teachers were not really involved in research activities, but they shared the feedback that we obtained from this research. How does it work? First, we develop an action plan, well, involving our research. Then we meet with the teacher, plan clear teaching sequences together in exchange with the teachers. Then we implement the lessons with the teachers, and then do the recordings. We record all the lessons that the teachers implement. Then we have post-implementation sessions where there are discussions. We discuss what happened with the teachers and sometimes with the students, their view as well. We did in some, but not in all of them. Then we transcribe the recorded data and analyze it formally by using interaction analysis techniques. Then it continues on like that. We reflect on what we have obtained after the analysis. We share it during the feedback session with the teachers. Well, of course, we sort of simplify and make our results understandable for the teachers, because they do not share the same knowledge, same terminology as we do. And then again, if necessary, we readjust the plan and continue planning sequences in CLIL. And it goes on like this. After the adjustments, we re-implement, re-record, and do the transcriptions and the analysis. So this cooperation results in sort of, we benefit as researchers and teachers because they know about, they become aware of their own teaching, not only because of we do research with, but also they reflect on their own classroom practices. Okay, so in our first, so we carried out clear research between the years 2012 and 2013. That was the first work package. And the aim of this first work package was to discover if CLIL was possible, because this was a recently new approach and we were not sure that we could use this approach with real beginners. So we set our questions and we planned our lessons and started the procedure. And we also wanted to know if there were observable differences between a CLIL lesson that we did in our case in English and a science lesson in French. So we had science lesson using CLIL in English and science lesson using French. And we used 2 public elementary schools at the beginning, and the participants were 9 to 10-year-old primary school children. A number of 30 students participated in our first work package, and the CLIL language was English. Mirose and Jacques also did it in Tahitian, but I'm only presenting the results in English, but you did it later on in Mahanui. So this was the plan that we obtained. It was an experimental sort of research. First, we had a group of students. We divided the classroom into 2. The CLIL science lesson was given by an English language teacher, and the class teacher did the science lesson. We recorded, and then after each session, we had discussions. Then a week later, or 2, we swapped the class, and this time the class teacher did the science lesson with group A, and the English language teacher did the CLIL lesson with group B. And we continued like that, recording and discussion. When we finished the 2 phases, the 2 cycle, then we transcribed the recorded data, we did analysis, and then we made comparisons between these lessons. Okay, so, well, the results from these studies indicated that it actually was possible to use CLIL with beginner level learners, even with zero, in our case, English level. But to compensate for the language, lack of competence in the learners, the classroom setting needed to use a lot of artifacts, real objects, social artifacts, and a naturalistic environment. And also we observed that in such a kind of lesson, the lessons should gradually move from teacher-mediated to peer-mediated lessons. So, after the results obtained from the first work package, we reformulated our research questions, and this time we wanted to see the role of the artifacts in CLIL classrooms. That was the result. Results showed us that the role of the artifacts and the naturalistic environment was important, and this time we focused on that. So we prepared 3 identical science lab experiments with 3 groups of learners, and we experimented. Again, the group was the same. 9-year-old school children, 30 participants. So, in order to identify the role of artifacts and gestures in CLIL practices, we did interaction analysis. This is just an example. For example, how we did it. We studied the interactions one by one, and here we see the role of the artifacts and gestures, how they influence the conversation, the exchanges in the classroom. I'm not in the half. Okay, all right. And we see that there was a communication breakdown here, and the communication breakdown was repaired with the use of the artifacts within the vicinity of the class. Vicinity of the students. Sorry, I panic, I have no time. The third work package of the CLIL experiment was my Hanui project. Actually, this was the project aimed at the creation of a plurilingual environment in Mahanui Primary School, and our project was a sub-project under this project. This research did not work very well because we had to cut our activities in middle because of some impossibilities. But there is one positive thing about this research, that in this study we experimented with 7-year-olds, even younger students, and we observed that actually it was possible to use CLIL with lower level learners, even younger ones. With them we did science, which did not work very well at the beginning, and then mathematics, and we obtained really good results teaching mathematics using CLIL. Well, as a whole, our research from CLIL showed us that in order to be able to successful in CLIL lessons, to teach the language and the content at the same time, the groups should be small. In primary schools, teachers are very skillful in that. They have teacher-directed activities and autonomous activities, dividing classrooms into two, so it worked very well with them. And CLIL activities require direct experience. Learners need to manipulate objects in the process of learning, and this type of activity is very suitable for young learners and teaching a foreign language, a regional language, or any other language in a naturalistic setting. So the role of artifacts we studied separately, and I showed you a bit of it. So it requires real objects, which in science, for example, the experiments that we did, we use real science objects. So the learners were doing experiment using the objects, learning the names of the actions and the objects, etc. And it requires joint attention, not just from the students, but from the teacher. So it was a collaborative work that the teacher and the students worked together. The presence of teacher here is very important because since the language competence of the learners is very low, at times the teacher compensated for the slack and intervened when necessary. Well, how many minutes? I've got to go on. Anyway, and the last project was PrEP. This was a large project, collected corpus from all 5 archipelagos of French Polynesia. And again, our research project was the sub-project of this. We used only foreign language teaching corpus to analyze. But this time we used, so here is the data that we obtained from 5 different archipelagos. We can discuss it perhaps later. And for this study, we use discovery method. So we analyze the data using interaction analysis methods. We use inductive comprehensive methods while we were analyzing. And we use computer-assisted data analysis, qualitative data analysis software, Atlas TI, to analyze the functions of the. We use coding. We coded every material that we coded the transcribed data that we obtained, and we presented. Okay. All right. So this is an example, and I finish it by saying that our research intends to extend and complement previous research that we have done. And we would like to establish collaboration with the other researchers who work in similar contexts. Sorry, I'm very bad at timing. And actually, we say more.
Thanks again, Zehra. I'm sorry it's all time.
Yeah.
And once again, if we can, I think each time we do it so that the speaker takes the question while the next speaker comes up and puts their slides on.
Okay, all right. So I introduce
So you stay here.